Oh no. All right, everybody, welcome to this dose of virtual vitamin Z. As you can see, we are out here at the African Grasslands habitat at the Detroit Zoo, where the wildebeests and the zebras are. I am Brad. I'm an education specialist with the Detroit Zoo, and over here we've got Brian.
Hey everybody, good morning.
Brian is one of our mammal supervisors and is responsible for caring for the wildebeests and the zebras. So we are going to learn a little bit about the wildebeests that live at the zoo today.
Sure.
So let's start. Brian, what are the wildebeests' names?
So the wildebeest, we have two males here. On the left, you have Jeffrey. He's a little bit of a lighter tan color. And then just to the right of him is Lenny. Lenny's a little bit of a darker, kind of a bluish tint.
Okay, so Jeffrey's on the left, Lenny's on the right.
Right.
Is there any other ways to tell them apart, or pretty much color?
Lenny's slightly larger, perhaps, but the color distinction is the easiest way.
Easiest way.
Right.
Okay. Then I think probably a lot of people are wondering. They look. They're pretty large. How much do they weigh, or about like how tall are they?
So wildebeest can get up to about 650 pounds and about 5 feet tall at the shoulder. These guys we would estimate to be about 500, 550 pound range right now.
Are they full grown?
They're about full grown.
Okay. How old are they?
So these guys, well, Jeffrey actually has a birthday tomorrow.
Oh.
Jeffrey will turn 3 tomorrow.
Nice.
And then Lenny will turn 3 years old 10 days after that on July 26th.
Okay. So they are really, so maybe a joint birthday party for these two.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, are they related or no?
These guys, there's a good chance they're related. So they came from another zoo where they came from a herd of wildebeest that included 2 different breeding males.
Okay.
So these guys had different mothers, but there's a 50-50 chance that they have the same father.
Same father? Okay.
Yeah,
so they might be...
there's a good chance they're half-siblings.
Half-brothers? Okay.
Right.
Now, the wildebeests that are here, they're both males. Are wildebeests endangered at all? Or?
Wildebeests are not endangered right now. They're currently listed as a species of least concern, which means they're doing pretty well. There's estimated to be about 1.5 million of them in Africa. But it's like anything else. You know, things can change in a hurry with human encroachment onto habitats, climate change, droughts. So they're definitely worth keeping an eye on, but they're doing well right now.
They're doing well, okay.
Yeah.
So they're not endangered. So these are both boys. Is there any plans on a female wildebeest coming to the Detroit Zoo?
We don't have any plans right now. The way we have this habitat right now, we've got these 2 male wildebeests and then 2 male zebras.
Okay.
So it's very much a bachelor club.
Nice.
And that's kind of the way they would live in the wild. So a lot of these herd type animals, you'll find them in either breeding groups where you've got a single dominant bull and he'll live with a harem of females and they're young. And then on the outskirts of that, you'll have all the bachelors that will kind of live together and take turns sparring with each other and take turns challenging the dominant bull in the breeding herd.
Okay.
So in general, mature males don't want to particularly get along well in the presence of females.
Okay. So as long as there's no ladies here.
Right. So that's an important part of these guys all getting along well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about their individual personalities?
Yeah. So these guys are both pretty headstrong and tough individuals. Lenny's on the right now. He's kind of the boss of this whole yard right now.
Okay.
He's the dominant guy, but he's still a little bit shy in terms of trying out new things. So Lenny's generally a little bit more outgoing with exploring new places, new things, new food items, things like that.
Now, I know that wildebeests and zebras occupy the same space in the wild.
Right.
So they do the same thing here at the Detroit Zoo. Do they interact much, or do they kind of do their own things?
They, as you can see right now, they prefer to be close together, and that's similar to in the wild. So these are Grevy's zebras that they live with. Jimmy and Enzi are their names. In the wild, you'll mostly find these massive herds of wildebeests mixed in with plains zebras.
Okay.
And it's all about strength in numbers in terms of protection from predators, such as lions and hyenas. So the idea is that if you live in a massive group of individuals, you don't have to be faster than a lion. You just have to be faster than one of your friends.
Oh man!
So that's and so that instinctive desire to be in a herd kind of translates to here, where you see that they like to be together as well.
Right.
We actually generally bring the zebras in at nighttime,
okay,
so we can separate them in the barn for their food. four total animals out here. The two grubby zebra boys and the two wildebeest boys.
Okay. So let's see. What kind of food are they eating right now? I can see that they are. Looks like maybe they're grazing, but you also threw some food out there.
Yeah, I put down some treats for them, which was apples and yams and carrots, which they ate that up, but they're just as happy to eat grass. So both of these species of animals are grazers. They're kind of like the lawnmowers of the savannah. They prefer to eat grassy things. So we give them all the Timothy hay that they can eat in addition to the grass that they're grazing out here right now. And then we round out their diet with about 3 or 4 pounds of a specially formulated wild herbivore pellet.
Okay.
Which is just kind of rounding out what they need, giving them all the essential vitamins and minerals.
Now, is there any? So they eat a lot of grass, right, in the wild. Is there any way that you guys can kind of keep them from overgrazing in here, or is that part of just feeding them other things?
Well, they're pretty much. We don't have to mow this yard very often.
Okay.
So they kind of keep pace with the rate of growth. So this is a good size space for this
Yeah.
number of grazing animals.
We can kind of go. We can go over. You can see it goes way back here. So sometimes you come to the zoo and they might be pretty far back there.
Yeah, there's some trees in the back they like to hide in, but they kind of we got a good balance right here in terms of space and animals.
Awesome. Let's see if anybody has any questions. Lenny asked, how fast can they run?
Wildebeest, at their top speeds, they can reach about 50 miles an hour.
Okay.
So they're very fast.
See if there's any other questions, you guys can always drop them in the comments. So that's a little bit about the wildebeest. Do you have any other favorite fun facts about wildebeest in general, or anything else that you think people would want to know about wildebeest?
I think the important story about wildebeest is they're just really important animals in terms of their role in their ecosystem in Africa. So they live in herds, and there's 1 to 1.5 million of these animals, and they perform the largest migration, anywhere in the world. So that they have a kind of a circular route that they travel through Kenya to Tanzania and back around again. And with them, they take, of course, other animals there along for the ride, like a lot of them zebras. Different animal species also go with them. And along the way, the role they provide is they're providing food for a lot of animals. Obviously, lions and hyenas. They cross a treacherous place at the Mara River, where crocodiles hang out, and that's a really big important part of their food source for the year, waiting for these guys to get through. And along the way, they kind of act as ecological lawnmowers.
Okay.
And maintain the grassland habitats as they are, and leave behind, of course, lots of fertilizer to help regenerate it for the next year.
So they're very important for the ecosystem.
Yeah, they play a similar role to what bison do in the United States.
Okay.
And so in maintaining that grassland, bison maintain habitat for other things like prairie dogs and black-footed ferrets. These guys perform a similar function in Africa.
Very cool. I actually had read that, the large migration is considered one of the most impressive and largest migrations, right?
Yes.
Somebody else had asked about how large the enclosure is. I don't know if you have an exact size. It's pretty big.
It's hard to get exact measurement because it kind of winds around into an unusual shape, but it's a good about 1.5 acres, I would estimate.
Yeah, it's pretty big. When you come to the zoo, you can check it out. And it goes pretty far back. It's kind of hard to capture here on the phone.
Yeah, there's lots of different areas. They like to kind of mix their time up. Sometimes they'll be out here in the open area grazing. A lot of times in the middle of the day when it gets real hot, they'll head back to the back of the space and take refuge under the trees.
If there's a time that they're most active, is there a time that visitors would probably get the best chance of seeing the wildebeest? Or
it kind of varies day to day in terms of what the weather's doing. I would just say that middle of the day when the sun's at its peak, that's when they're more likely not to be active.
Okay.
But
awesome. Thank you, Brian. We'll see if there's any other questions. And then just one thing more about just your job as a zookeeper. You've been here for a while. Do you have a certain favorite zoo memory or animals you've worked with?
Yeah, it's hard to pick just one. I've been fortunate to have the opportunity to do some field work and travel around and do some things. So spending a week backpacking through Isle Royal, working on studies for wolf and moose populations. I've also spent a week in Armenia doing research for conservation for Eurasian otters. So those kinds of opportunities, I would say, are probably my favorite. It's just something really unique and exciting experience.
Let's see. Somebody else asked, this is more about zebras. Alex had asked, how long has the zoo had zebras? How long have zebras been here in the zoo's history?
I'd have to look up the exact date. I mean, these guys have been here much longer than I've been here. This particular part of the zoo was designed as part of the original habitat back in the early days.
Okay.
So I would venture to guess they've been here basically most, if not the entire time.
The entire time.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that the Wildebeest came here a couple of years ago.
Right.
And it had been a while since they had been at the zoo.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I think it had been since the 80s or something like
Okay.
that.
Yeah. So wildebeests are more newer to the zoo history, but zebras have been
Wildebeest are also called new.
News.
GNU, so that's a low-hanging fruit for the PR fund lines. Yes.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you very much. We're going to switch back here so we can say goodbye to everybody. When you guys come to the zoo, check out the wildebeest. Thank you, Brian, so much for sharing
My pleasure.
some information with us. Really cool knowing about how important they are to the ecosystem. So next time you guys come to the zoo, maybe take a moment out of your day to sit back, observe, and appreciate the wildebeest.
Definitely worth checking them out.
Awesome. Thank you, guys, and we will see you guys next time.